Hi guys, I hope you're doing perfect. Welcome to the Proofread Easy English Learning platform. In today's class, we will study verbs. This is going to be a very thorough discussion of verbs, its different types, its different forms, and hopefully by the time this lecture ends, you will have a very strong understanding of verbs, its different forms and its different types, and how verbs are used in a sentence and how the verbal forms can be used in a sentence. So what do verbs represent? They represent either a state of being or an action. Now look at this example. I am David. In this case, am, which is the conjugated form of the verb to be, is linking the subject I with the subject complement David. In this way, the linking verb am is showing who I am. I am David. Now look at this example. He is running. Is the conjugated form of the verb to be for the third person singular. He is the subject. Running is a present participle, the root form of which is run, and is running is a verb string that is showing the action that this subject is performing. Some common examples of verbs can be walk, talk, eat, sleep, run, play, etc. Now let's look at verbs in more detail. This is a summary of the types of verbs. We will discuss each of these types in detail in the coming slides, but for now you should look at this summary. These are four broad categories of verbs. The first category is transitive, intransitive and detransitive verbs. The second category here is finite and non-finite. This is a very detailed category and we will look into them in detail in the coming slides. The third category is linking verbs. The fourth category is dynamic and stative verbs. So let's look at linking verbs in more detail. Let me read out this narration for you. A linking verb links a subject with its complement, the verb to be and its conjugated forms, and some sense verbs are typical examples of linking verbs. So what can be the conjugated forms of the verb to be? Is, am, are. These are examples of the conjugated forms of the verb to be. What are some of the examples of sense verbs? Smell, taste. For example, the cake tastes good. The perfume smells super. Entire verb strings too can serve as linking verbs. Now what linking verbs do is that they link the subject with its complement. So when a linking verb links a subject with its complement, that complement is referred to as the subject complement. And when a verb links an object to its complement, that complement is referred to as the object complement. A subject complement is either a noun phrase, that is a predicate nominative, or which is also referred to as a predicate noun, or an adjective phrase which is referred to as the predicate adjective. What a predicate nominative does is it renames the subject, and a predicate adjective describes the subject. This is the key difference. Renaming and describing, these are two separate things. A nominative will rename the subject and a predicate adjective will describe the subject. Now look at these examples. I am William. Am is a linking verb in this sentence which is linking I, the subject I, with the subject complement William. Now since William is renaming the subject, this is a predicate nominative. He is righteous. Righteous is a quality. It's an attribute, it's an adjective phrase. Is a linking verb and it is linking righteous, that is the subject complement, with the subject he. He is righteous. So righteous here is an adjective phrase, therefore it's a predicate adjective. Now we earlier said that entire verb strings can also function as linking verbs. Now has been is a linking phrase. He has been a nuisance. Has been is the linking verb in this case. A nuisance is a noun phrase which is describing the subject he. And we all know that a noun phrase that describes the subject is referred to as the predicate adjective. So has been is linking the subject with this predicate adjective or the subject complement, a nuisance. Let's look at the transitive, intransitive and detransitive verbs. Transitive verbs are simply verbs that need an object to complete the thought and meaning in a sentence. Put simply, if a sentence cannot be complete without an object, the verb in that sentence is a transitive verb. For example, I spoke. Now spoke is a transitive verb in this case because it is unclear. The sentence is failing to convey a complete thought of what has been spoken. We will have to define the object in this sentence in order to complete the meaning of this sentence and in order to make the thought in this sentence complete. So we may rephrase it as I spoke the truth. The truth in this case is the object element of this sentence. So when I say I spoke the truth, the sentence becomes clear and everyone now knows what is the thought and the meaning of this sentence. In contrast, intransitive verbs do not need an object to complete the thought and meaning in a sentence. The sentence will have a complete thought and meaning in itself even if it does not have an object. The sentence will have a complete thought and meaning even without a subject. Now look at this sentence. I stood up. This sentence has a complete thought and meaning. We do not have an object in this sentence. I is the subject, stood up is the verb. In case of intransitive verbs, only two elements, that is subject and verb, can produce a sentence with complete thought and meaning. Of this category is detransitive verbs. Detransitive verbs are unique in the sense that they can take two objects. But keep in mind that one of the object is going to be direct and the other is going to be indirect. When I say that an object is going to be direct, it means that the verb, the action which the detransitive verbs is representing will be applied directly on that object and indirectly on the indirect object. Look at this example. I gave the money to him. Now gave is a detransitive verb. The money is the direct object because this is the object that has been given directly. The action give is affecting this object directly. The money has been given, therefore the money is the direct object. And him is the indirect object because the money has been given to him, this object. This is the indirect object because in this case it is the recipient, whereas the money is the direct object because this action gave has been performed on money. I hope this makes sense to you. Now let's come to the next category. This is a very important category, the finite and the non-finite verbs. Now before I explain finite and non-finite verbs to you, let me give you some background information. Sometimes we saw in the first slide that verbs represent either a state of being or an action. But in some cases, verbs do not function or perform the role of a verb in a sentence. Rather, they might function as nouns or as adjectives or as adverbs. Now, here's the point. A finite verb is a verb that can be the main verb in a sentence, whereas a non-finite verb cannot be the main verb in a sentence. This is the key distinction. In case of a finite verb, the finite verb is going to be the verb in a sentence, whereas a non-finite verb is not going to be the verb in a sentence. It is going to be either a noun or a modifier such as an adjective or an adverb. While a finite verb is a verb in its form, a non-finite verb is also a verb in its form, but it will not function as a verb in a sentence. So what types of non-finite verbs we have? We have gerunds, infinitives and participles. They function as nouns or modifiers, that is an adjective or an adverb, but not as the verb. This is the key distinction, keep in mind. A finite verb is going to function as a verb in a sentence. However, a non-finite verb, despite being a verb, will not function as a verb, it will function as a noun or a modifier. Now look at these examples so that we can further see what is the difference between the two. I walked through the entrance. In this case, walked is the verb in this sentence, and walked is a finite verb because it can and is functioning as the main verb in a sentence. I walked through the entrance. See, I is the subject, walked is the verb. Through the entrance is a prepositional phrase serving as the adverbial part of this sentence. Now compare this sentence with the second sentence. I saw an abandoned car. Look at this. I is the subject, saw is the verb, the finite verb. It is the finite verb because it is the main verb and is perhaps the only verb in this sentence. An abandoned car. Now abandoned is technically a verb and its past form is abandoned and its past participle form is also abandoned. Now just in case you're wondering what a past participle is, past participle is a non-finite verb also called a verbal. A non-finite verb is also called a verbal. Like a gerund, an infinitive and a participle, whether a present participle or a past participle, are also called a verbal. Abandoned is a past participle which has been used as a modifier, an adjective in this case. Abandoned has not been used as a verb. A past participle is a non-finite verb and it cannot be used as the main verb in a sentence. This was just one example to show you how a non-finite verb does not function as the verb in a sentence, and all of its forms such as gerunds, participles and infinitives in more detail. The first category of non-finite verbs is gerunds. Gerunds are verbs in their ing form that function as nouns. We all know what ing form of a verb is. It is the root form of the verb with the suffix as ing. For example, run becomes running, play becomes playing, go becomes going. Now, as we earlier said, gerunds will not function as verbs in any sentence. Look at these examples. Running is my passion. Now, running is supposed to be an ing form verb, but here it is not functioning as a verb. It is functioning as the noun, the subject in this sentence. And we all know that a subject is a noun phrase. Here, running is serving as a noun phrase and the subject of this sentence. Running is my passion. My passion is the predicate nominative or the subject complement, and is here is a linking verb. And in this sentence, the linking verb is serving as the main verb or the finite verb. Running is good for your health. Again, see how running is being used as a noun phrase rather than a verb. Now let us look at participles. We have two types of participles, present participles and past participles. Keep in mind that present participles and gerunds look similar. Both of them are ing form verbs, but present participles do not function as nouns. Rather, they function as a modifier. Look at this example. I have a running nose. Now, I is the subject, have is the finite or the main verb, a running nose. Running is apparently an action verb, but in this sentence, the noun phrase a running nose does not have running as a verb. Rather, running has been used as an adjective. Running is modifying the noun nose, and we all know that adjectives modify nouns. Running in this sentence is an adjective and not a verb. See how a non-finite verb is not serving or functioning as the main verb in a sentence. However, keep in mind that present participles are combined with auxiliary verbs to form verb strings that function as the verb element in a sentence. So when I say I am running in the garden, now am running is the verb element. This is a verb string, a verb phrase that is serving as the verb element in this sentence. In this case, the present participle running is not functioning as an adjective, rather it is functioning as the verb because it is part of the verb string am running. This is a present continuous tense, and present participles are used in continuous tenses, past continuous tenses, present continuous tenses and future continuous tenses. However, they are used along with auxiliaries to form continuous tenses. Now let's take a look at the past participles. Past participles are verbs in their third form. We have three forms of verbs. We have the root form, the past form and the past participle form. The root form is usually referred to as the V1 form, the past form is referred to as the V2, and the past participle form is referred to as the V3 form. Past participles usually are similar to past forms of the verbs, that is the ED form of the verbs. But this is not always true because past participles are technically different to the past forms of the verbs, and this difference becomes apparent in case of irregular verbs. For example, for a verb like close, both the past form and the past participle forms are closed. However, for a verb like run, the past form is ran, but the past participle form is run, not ran. With irregular verbs, you will have to memorize the past participle forms in most cases. Like their present counterparts, the present participles, the past participles also function as adjectives rather than verbs in a sentence. Keep in mind that past participles, present participles, gerunds and infinitives, which we will study shortly, all are forms of verbals. They are non-finite verbs that cannot function as the main verb in a sentence. Look at this example. I came across a wrecked ship. This is the subject, came across A wrecked ship. Now wreck is a verb that has wrecked as its past form as well as past participle form. In this case, the past participle form wrecked has been used as an adjective because it is modifying the noun ship. Look at the determiner adjective noun pattern. A wrecked ship. Indefinite article a, which is a determiner modifying the noun ship. Wrecked is an adjective. This past participle is functioning as an adjective modifying the noun ship, and this is the noun itself. I came across a wrecked ship. See how came across is the finite verb and wrecked is the non-finite verb functioning as an adjective. Now let's look at infinitives. Like gerunds and participles, infinitives are also non-finite verbs that cannot function as the main verb in a sentence unless they become part of a verb string. Infinitives are verbs in their root form. They're also referred to as the to infinitive, as in most cases they have to as the prefix. However, we also have infinitives without a prefix to, and in that case it is called a bare infinitive. Like gerunds and participles, infinitives are also non-finite verbs that do not function as the main verb in a sentence. Rather, they function as a noun or a modifier unless they become part of a verb string. Look at these examples. To jog was his hobby. In this case, the infinitive to jog has been used as a noun, and this infinitive is serving as the subject of this sentence. Look at this example. I want to go to the market. In this case, the infinitive phrase to go is modifying the verb want, and therefore it is functioning as an adverb rather than the verb. Want is the main verb in this sentence. I bought myself a cake to eat. In this example, the cake to eat, this infinitive phrase is modifying the noun a cake. Therefore, it is functioning as an adjective. See, in all these examples, infinitives are not functioning as the main verbs in the sentence. However, look at this. I run every day. Now, this bare infinitive is functioning as the main verb in this sentence. Infinitives do function as the main verbs in a sentence if they become part of the verb string in simple present tenses. This is a simple present tense. I run every day. The bare infinitive run is functioning as the verb phrase in this. Run is part of the verb phrase run, and it is functioning as the main verb. This bare infinitive is functioning as the main verb. Infinitives are used for forming simple tenses. This is a simple present tense. I run every day. In case of a simple future tense, this sentence will become I will run every day. As I said that the infinitive phrase did not function as the verb in these three examples, but in this example, the bare infinitive run did function as the main verb in this sentence, as it represents the verb phrase of this sentence and the verb element of this sentence. I run every day. In this case, the bare infinitive run has been used to form this simple present tense. I run every day. Now let us take a look at the different forms of verbs. You already have some concept from the previous slides, but still it is important that you take a look at all the forms of the verbs. A verb has a root form, which is the infinitive form. To run, to walk, we just saw an example in the previous slide. Like I walk to school every day. Walk is a bare infinitive and serving as the verb element of this sentence. In case of third person singular, the root form will have an s added to it as the suffix. For example, he walks. He is a third person pronoun, third person singular pronoun. So walk will become walks and run will become runs. He runs. He talks. He cooks. See, an s will be added to the root form of the verb. Then we have the past form, or the V2 form of the verb. You saw it in the slide on past participles. For example, run becomes ran in the past form, walk becomes walked, think becomes thought. Look at this example. I walked to the bridge yesterday. So walk has become walked in the past tense. This is a simple past tense. Then we have the participle form. We already know that we have two types of participles. The present participle and the past participle. The past participle or the V3 form of the verb is As I told you earlier, it is the third form of the verb and usually looks similar to the past form of the verb, except in case of irregular verbs. Then we have the present participles. They are informed verbs, similar in form to gerunds. And the past participle form is used as part of verb strings in perfect tenses, and the present participle is used in verb strings of continuous or progressive tenses. Now, what does this mean? You can find detailed guidance on tenses and how the participles are used in forming these tenses in the verb tense section. That's a separate section. You can visit that for more details. But look at this example. I had walked to the school yesterday. Now, had walked is a verb string. Had walked. This is a past perfect tense. If it were a future perfect tense, it would have been I will have walked to the school yesterday. You can find detailed guidance on tenses in the tenses section. Look at this. We have been meeting since last Christmas. We have been meeting. See, have been are auxiliaries, and meeting is a present participle that is combined with these auxiliaries to form this tense. We have been meeting since last Christmas. Similarly, had is an auxiliary verb, walked is the past participle form of the verb, and this combination or this verb string has been used. This past participle has been combined with this auxiliary to form this verb string and this past perfect tense. I had walked to the school yesterday. So what are auxiliary verbs? Now let us take a look at what these auxiliary verbs are. They're also called helping verbs, and the main function is to add grammatical or functional meaning to a sentence. This can be aspect, voice, tense, modality. We will shortly look at what these are, and we will shortly see a few examples to understand how helping verbs add grammatical or functional meaning to a clause. Look at this list of auxiliary verbs. Be and all its conjugated forms is, am, was, were, been, being. Have and its conjugated forms have, has, had. Do and its conjugated forms do, does, did. And then there is this special category of auxiliary verbs that are called the modal verbs. Will, would, shall, should, may, might, can, could, must, need, dare, and ought or ought to. These are modal verbs. This is more or less a comprehensive list of the auxiliary verbs we have. A few things to note at this point is that auxiliaries be, have, do and their conjugated forms can be used as the main verb in a sentence. That is, they can function as a finite verb as well. However, modal verbs are an exception. They cannot be used as the main verb in a sentence, and modals are special also because they do not change their forms with a change in voice or tense. For example, be would become is in case of first person singular, but modal verbs will retain their form. They will not change. Will remain will. I will, he will, she will, they will. Will not change since it's a modal verb. It will not change its form with a change in voice. Similarly, will not change its form due to a change in the tense. For example, do will become did in the past form, but will not become would. Sometimes would is used as a past form of will, but technically would is a separate modal verb. It has got something to do with the mood rather than the tense. Same is the case with will. When will is used as a modal, it will not change its form with a change in voice or tense. Another special thing about modals is that they do not have infinitives or ing forms. Willing is not a modal verb. Will is a modal verb. Shelling, should, may, none of them has an ing form or a bare infinitive form. And moreover, they do not need do, did to make negatives. Look at these examples to see how auxiliaries are used in a sentence. I am having dinner. Am is an auxiliary verb combined with the present participles having to form this verb string and this present continuous tense. I am having dinner. She is sleeping. Is an auxiliary joined with the present participle sleeping to form this present continuous tense. She is sleeping. Similarly, they are running. He did not go. Do you want to join the class? Now this is an interrogative sentence. See how the auxiliary comes before the subject. Do you want to join the class? Do is an auxiliary, want is the main verb. Usually the pattern is that the auxiliary comes before the main verb, but in case of interrogative sentences, let me tell you that auxiliaries come before the subject. Now here is the case of a modal verb, might. I might go to the school tomorrow. Now might is adding mood. This is creating an impression of uncertainty. I might go or I might not go. So there's a 50% chance that I will go to the school tomorrow. In the examples we just saw, the auxiliary verbs am, is, are, did, do and might were used as auxiliary verbs in these sentences and not as the main verbs. Now if you compare them with these examples, he is William, he did wrong, he has the keys. In these cases, in these sentences, is, did and has have been used as the main verbs and not as auxiliary verbs. Now let's take a look at what person means in the context of verbs. Person refers to the perspective. Like when we say first person, second person or the third person, it is the perspective we are referring to. The first person perspective is different to the second person perspective and the third person perspective. The first person perspective is a person's own perspective. The second person perspective is the perspective of the person who is being addressed, and the third person perspective is the perspective of the person who is being talked about or referred to. Now look at these examples. I want to go to Finland. I is the first person perspective. I want to go to Finland. So this is something I want to do, and this is something I'm telling about myself. But when I say you can look into this matter some other day, now you is the second person perspective. You can look into this matter. It means that I'm talking to you and I'm telling you to do something or to abstain from doing something. So this you refers to the second person perspective, the person who is being addressed in the conversation, whether written or oral. And look at this example. He wanted to avenge the death of his father. Now he is the third person perspective, the perspective of the person who is being talked about, and the third person perspective represents the perspective of the person of the third person who is being talked about. So he wanted to avenge. Now he is the third person who is being talked about or referred to. Keep in mind that the first person is the I, we perspective, I for singular, we for plural. Second person is you in case of singular and plural, and the third person is he, she, it and they. He is for a singular male perspective, she is for a singular female perspective, it is usually for non-living things, for animals, and they is the plural third person perspective. A few examples of the pronouns. First person singular pronouns include I, me, mine and myself. And the first person plural pronouns will include we, us, our and ourselves. The self and selves are reflexive forms of pronouns. Second person will have you, your, yours, yourself and yourselves as the second person pronouns. And third person pronouns will include, third person pronouns can be he, him, his, himself, she, her, hers, herself, it, its, itself, they, them, their, theirs and themselves. So these are the pronouns and some of the reflexive forms. This slide is not primarily about the first person, second person and third person pronouns. So we will not discuss pronouns at this stage, and hopefully I will prepare a separate slide to discuss pronouns at some later stage. Here is a summary of how the verb to be is conjugated in the first, second and third person forms. With I, the first person singular perspective, to be becomes am. With we, the first person plural perspective, it becomes are. With you, it also becomes are, the second person singular and plural perspective. He, she, it, The third person singular perspective, the verb to be becomes is, and with the third person plural perspective, the verb to be becomes are. I hope you have benefited from this information. Thank you for watching. If you've liked this video lecture, please like and subscribe to this channel, as this helps the Proofread Easy English learning platform in preparing more videos like this. And you can also visit us at www.proofreadeasy.com.